of the most impactful things you can do to further your state of being bio-optimal. And, I often say, if you follow me for any length of time, that aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. And the reason why I say aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort is because the more aggressively we pursue comfort, the faster we age. And when it comes to fasting, nothing could be more true than it comes to fasting. 75% of people abandon their first fast because they abandon it in the first 24 hours. They either get hungry or they're eating out of habit or they're eating out of an emotional state. It's not out of need. It's not out of necessity for their body. It's out of comfort. It's out of trying to put away that feeling that they're a little bit hungry or trying to not skip that dessert or that meal that they really want to eat. And instead of depriving themselves of that feeling of hunger, they deprive themselves of the real benefits that they can get from water fasting. So I want you to keep thinking about that. Aging is the aggressive pursuit of comfort. The main reason why people don't start a diet program, they don't start an exercise program, they don't start an easy walking program is because it's uncomfortable. And that's why most people don't do cold showers, even though you can demonstrate the benefits of cold showers. So what I really wanted to do was build a community so you'd have people around you, you'd have encouragement, you'd have me guiding you through it. And when you complete this 3-day water fast, I promise you the benefits, which we're going to get into the details, so far outweigh the impetus to eat. You're going to be so proud of yourself. You're going to know that you did something really, really good for yourself. It's astounding how much we have lost faith in humanity and mankind and the body's ability to heal itself. The power that this has over this. I talk about it all the time, that if we would just put some faith back in humanity and mankind, if we would see a shift in modern medicine's approach towards how human beings can heal themselves, then I think we'd see a shift in the very fabric of modern medicine. Sometimes when I train physicians, I will tell physicians, remember, I'm not a doctor, I'm a human biologist, so I'm not licensed to practice medicine. Hopefully nothing that I say to you will be construed as medical advice. But, when I get in rooms full of physicians, I recently spoke at an ozone conference with about 400 board certified physicians. And I said, what if we took a step back for a second? And what if we approached the diagnosis of any human ailment through the same 3 lenses? In other words, what if our first position, when anybody had a pathology, a disease, an ailment, a complaint, a history of some kind of chronic condition going on in their body, what if our first position was that God did not make a mistake? And what I mean by God did not make a mistake is that their body is acting properly. We just need to find out why it's behaving that way. So many people have autoimmune diseases and they've just accepted, for example, the fact that they woke up one day and their immune system began to manufacture antibodies to their colon, and now they have colon cancer. Now they have Crohn's disease. Or they woke up one day and the immune system was manufacturing antibodies to the thyroid, so now they have thyroid Hashimoto's. Or they're manufacturing antibodies to the lacrimal gland, they have Sjogren's, or any number of autoimmune diseases. But what if we woke up one day and said, the immune system's manufacturing antibodies to the colon. We need to figure out why. We're going to assume that God didn't make a mistake, and there's a reason that the immune system is acting this way. What if we woke up one day and it's manufacturing antibodies to our thyroid and we have Hashimoto's disease, but we're not going to accept that we have Hashimoto's disease. We're going to accept that the immune system is properly attacking that organ for a reason. We need to figure out why. And as you do some digging, lo and behold, you find in a vast majority of these cases, there are viruses that are hiding in the thyroid gland. There are heavy metals embedded in the thyroid gland, and the immune system is there trying to throw them out, not trying to attack our own tissue. Very similar things happen in the colon, right? There are contents in the colon that are actually not supposed to be in your bloodstream. The colon from the inside of your oral cavity right out to the back door, that is actually outside of the body. Right? That is outside. That is as far outside of your home as the outside of your patio. It is outside of your body. And some of the contents that are there are there and only meant to be in that region. When they begin to leak through the wall of the colon, and you get something called leaky gut, and these bacterial contents start to get into areas where they're not supposed to be, the immune system is called to that location. And it wages a war in that location, not because it's trying to attack your body, but because it's trying to get the foreign invader out. And guess where these little invaders like to hide? Guess where viruses like to hide? Inside of your cells. Guess where heavy metals and mold spores and mycotoxins like to hide? Inside of your cells. You know, a virus is not actually even a living thing, right? What it does is it comes up to a healthy cell, it attaches to the cell wall, it injects its DNA into that cell, and now that cell is infected and becomes like a zombie cell. That kind of reminds me of a zombie movie where a zombie bites you, now you're infected. You were a healthy cell before, and then now you're metabolically sick. So if we start looking at human beings and harnessing the capacity that God gave us to heal ourselves, and we have an entire pharmacy inside of our body. If you understood the cascade, the sequence of events that is going to go on inside your body for the next 72 hours, you would be amazed. You could do an entire documentary series on the intelligence of this laboratory that's in your body that we're about to tap and turn into a functional medicine clinic that's going to intelligently rid your body of useless cells, useless virus particles, mold spores, mycotoxins, boost your immune system, and overall just elevate your state of optimal health. So what if we approached all human beings the same way? And we said, number one, God didn't make a mistake. I'm not saying that pathology and disease does not exist. What I am telling you is nearly every form of disease, every form of pathology, every ailment that human beings suffer from is rarely something that has happened to them. In almost every case, it is something that happens within them. And one of the things that we can do to prevent things happening within us is we can turn on our body's own innate immune system and its capacity to heal and repair and put our body in a position to regenerate, repair, detoxify, and eliminate waste. And that's what this is about over the next few days, right? This is about harnessing the power of autophagy and cellular senescence so that we can actually clean up all of these zombie cells in our body. You know that if you, or God forbid, someone you love has so we know that all cancer, regardless of its form or its origin, has one common characteristic. It was a healthy cell at one time that became metabolically sick, right? So why can't we take metabolically unhealthy cells and turn them back to being metabolically healthy? At some point in your lifetime, nearly every person on this simulcast right now has had a cell in their body that has gone rogue. The reason why it didn't manifest in disease was because your immune system spotted that change and it literally ate that cell like a Pac-Man. This is called cellular senescence or cellular autophagy. What happens is on the surface of our cells, there are markers that let the immune system know this cell is functioning properly or it's not functioning properly. You have hordes of cells in your body called senescent cells. Senescent cells are everyday cells like red blood cells, like platelets, white blood cells that actually are there for a reason. Red blood cells' main role is to carry oxygen. A platelet cell is to carry growth factors. A white blood cell is to mount an immune defense. But did you know that just like a company full of lazy employees, after a certain period of time, you have living cells in your body that can no longer perform their function? You have red blood cells in your bloodstream right now that can no longer carry oxygen. Wouldn't you like to get that cell out and replace it with a cell that's a young, fresh, healthy cell that can carry oxygen? Wouldn't you like to find the platelets in your bloodstream that can no longer carry growth factors or mount a healing response and get rid of them and put platelets in that are going to serve you? Wouldn't you like to find the white blood cells in your bloodstream that can no longer mount an immune defense and actually gobble those cells up, turn them into energy for cells that can actually mount an immune response? Well, that's what's going to happen to you when you do a water fast. You know, fasting's been around for centuries. Nearly every religious form known to mankind has been fasting for centuries. Long before Jesus Christ ever walked this earth, they were fasting in different religious forms. And they did it for several reasons. What's really interesting is they did it for health reasons, but they also did it to open up what they called spiritual pathways, which we know is just an enhanced sense of being focused and aware, that state of Zen, that state of calm, that mental clarity that you thought only belonged to your youth, that should belong to you for every day that you're walking this earth. So many of us have accepted regular everyday ailments, in my opinion, as a consequence of aging that are not a consequence of aging at all. If I was to poll the hundreds of people on this simulcast right now and say, what are some of the just common ailments that you suffer from every day? Weight gain, water retention, brain fog, poor focus and concentration. I don't get good delta wave of sleep. My response to exercise is not what it used to be when I was younger. My libido's left the building. I don't get aroused any longer. It's not that I don't love or not attracted to my spouse. I just don't feel that sensation of arousal. I don't seem to be able to recall names and dates and places. My eyesight's getting a little bit fuzzy. And you think this is a normal consequence of aging. This is not a consequence of aging at all. This is a consequence of missing raw material in your body. And very often, what we can do is harness the body's ability to heal itself and give you a window into what it's like to really be bio-optimized, for lack of better words. That's why I'm so excited about fasting. And I think that for those of you that are getting into the mindset, the framework of fasting, I want you to not just know the benefits, but I also want you to know that everything is hard, right? I mean, if you've had any kind of flu or influenza, or you've suffered through COVID, or God forbid, you've had some kind of serious pathology and disease that either required surgery or chemical or pharmaceutical or synthetic intervention, you know that that's hard. So fasting is also hard. You just kind of have to pick your heart, right? You are not only not borrowing from your future, you're adding time to your future. And so let's really take the next 3 days and as a group, and let's do something really good for ourselves. Let's really say, this is going to be my time. I'm going to embrace this feeling of hunger, because I know that when I'm hungry, my body is still eating. It's just eating itself from its weakest point forward. And I am going to stay in this fight, and I'm going to battle that sensation of hunger. I'm going to battle that temporary sensation of fatigue, because I know that what's going on inside my body is going to be extraordinarily beneficial on the other side. Please, let's try not to cave to the short-term cravings that are just borrowing from our future, right? And that's why I'm here to really, to guide you guys through this, to go through. I'm making my whole team off camera here. You can't see them, but if you could pan around, you see my whole team. They're all in the fast too, right? We're all in this with you together. I'm hungry just like you're hungry. I wish I could have a ribeye steak just like you wish you could have a ribeye steak. And I want you to think about this one day at a time. All I want you to think about is just getting to bed tonight, right? Let's keep our focus very short term. And during this time, we're not only going to hydrate, we're going to remineralize the body. We're going to do things like breath work. We can take cold showers. We can do contrast therapy. We can get out and expose our skin to sunlight. We can touch the surface of the earth and do some grounding. Not things that are going to add a dime to your budget, but they're just going to benefit your biome. We can use the magnetism of the earth to make our body alkaline. We can use the light from the sun to power up our mitochondria. We can use breath work to exercise our auxiliary muscles of respiration, raise our mood, elevate our emotional state. We can use hydration and minerals to really nutrify our bodies and really just give a gift back to our bodies over the next few days. Just think how many decades you've spent eating, and we're only taking 3 days of a short break to actually let our body regenerate, repair, detoxify, and eliminate waste. So I want to bring a guest onto the simulcast with me. He's a physician. He's a very close friend of mine. You may have seen him on other previous podcasts. He's been on a podcast guest of mine. He is the creator of the acid-kicking alkalizers, which I encourage you to use if you're drinking the black coffees. It will not break a fast. It just removes the acid from the coffee so your body can more readily absorb it. We're going to for those of you that are staying around through the end of this first hour, we're going to open up the second hour to direct questions from all of the VIPs. You guys know that if you're not a VIP, you can become one. You get the first month free anyway. You might as well become a VIP and get the benefits of direct interaction with me so that I can answer your questions and we can take a deep dive. But as always, the first hour of all of these challenges will always be free. I really want you to get as much of a benefit from this as you possibly can. And most importantly, I want to encourage you to stick with it over the next 3 days. So I want you to welcome our guest to the podcast, Dr. Joffries. Welcome, brother. It's great to have you back again. Oh, he hates the whoops unite right here. I also believe in measuring and tracking. I'm actually going to be posting my sleep scores. If you've got a Whoop or an Aura or you track it on your iPhone, it'd be really interesting to hear from the group how your sleep scores are going over the next few days. I find that fasting does one of two things. It either dramatically improves sleep scores from the outset, or it interrupts the sleep score in the first 24 to 48 hours. But by the day 3, their sleep scores dramatically improve. That's observational with what I've seen with thousands of folks that have done the water fast with me, and done and worn their Whoops. So welcome to the fasting challenge, man. This is awesome. I want to talk, before we go over to VIPs, I really want to spend some time talking to you guys about the benefits of fasting and sort of talking about what's going to happen to you in the first 24 hours, what's going to happen in the 48 hours, what's going to happen in 72 hours, what are some of the benefits that are going on inside of your body. So when you feel that hunger pang and you start fighting that hunger pang, you know that you're doing it for a good reason, right? So because of the extraordinarily high failure rate in water fasting, after talking to some of the world's leading experts on fasting, Dr. Walter Longo, Dr. Gonzalez, people like yourself, Dr. Minkoff, I designed this first day to ease you into the fast, right? To take you from solid food to liquid foods into a liquid water fast. So that's why today, so far, you have two choices. You can either begin the water fast if you're like, if you're an overachiever and you got really strong willpower and fasting is not new to you, then by all means wake up and just begin your water fast out of the gate. For the majority of you, we allowed several things that do not break a fast in the morning: black coffee, perfect amino acids, the acid-kicking alkalizers, and definitely mineral salts, the Baja Gold mineral salts. Remember, the majority of us are actually mineral deficient. It is just astounding to me how many people are diagnosed with significantly chronic conditions that are missing one of 3 simple things: 91 essential minerals, 2 essential fatty acids, or 8 essential amino acids. Remember, the word essential means essential for life. That means they're necessary for life. For the record, there is no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. So let's just sit with that for a second. Carbohydrates are not essential for life. So what I did was I talked about the best way to design the first 24 hours of a fast so that I could have the highest rate of success in the last 48 hours of a fast. And universally, they agreed black coffee is not an issue. Perfect aminos, not an issue. You should never stop taking your medications. So if you're on cardiac medication or other medications, thyroid medication, please continue to take those. And the other thing was, when we go to the liquids, we have a bowl of bone broth at noon. We have a second bowl of bone broth at 6 p.m. That's your first day. That should allow you to be hungry in the morning, get to that bowl of bone broth at noon, maybe be hungry in the afternoon, get to that bowl of bone broth at night, and then get to your first night of sleep. And then days 2 and days 3, we're going to use the black coffee, the alkalizer, perfect aminos, and then we're going to use mineral salts added to our drinking water. My preference was that you drink spring water. I drink the Mountain Valley, but you could drink any spring water that's out there. My other preference is that you get your spring water from a bottled source. Of course, the best water to drink is the hydrogen water, but if you don't want to spring for a hydrogen water bottle, that's fine. Just get a good mineral water. Very often when people do these water fasts, for some reason they drink distilled water. That can have the opposite effect, right? Because it can actually demineralize and pull nutrients out of the blood. So I want explain in your words kind of what's happening when we fast. If you could give us a layman's definition of autophagy and cellular senescence, because those are terms that are thrown around a lot in water fasting. So I want people to understand what's going on inside your body, and what happens when your immune system turns on the weakest cells and begins to break them apart into fuel sources like amino acids. So talk a little bit about the processes that are going to go on in the body.
I think first of all, awesome stuff right there. I'm so excited. Everyone here is fasting. This is going to be great. The ride down here.
I actually am already getting my energy from the fast. Like I'm having a hard time sitting here right now.
Oh, me too. I know.
I'm
in full throttle. But I think before we even start, we have to get focused on the most important thing, which is why we're doing this. There's a saying, if your why is big enough, your how will find a way. So really dig deep, spend 5 minutes to really say, what is the purpose of this? Why am I doing this? What's the outcome that I want? Because stuff is going to happen. Things are going to come up. Every single fast we've done, there's always been a challenge one way or the other. So when you hit those challenges, if you have a big enough, deep enough why, you're going to find a way to get through that and break through that barrier. And that could be anything. That could be hangry. That could be emotionally how you're feeling. So you just really want to know what that is. But fasting is one of the most powerful tools we can use. We call it biohacking now, but you mentioned how far back this goes biblically. I mean, biblically, this is something that has been going on for that long. And biblically, they say this is about crucifying the flesh, right? So when you get hungry or hangry, realize that food is a normal part of our life, but we weren't designed to eat the amount of food that we're eating now in today's modern acid time. I mean, the average American is consuming 17 meals a day. 17 meals a day. Research shows. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and all the snacks in between. Wow. It's a huge problem. So what's happening when that goes on is that the body is literally dumping insulin into the blood. And every time we dump insulin into the blood, we know it's a transport hormone. It's bringing glucose into the cells, but it's also storing fat. It's driving up inflammation. And what we also know is that the more insulin you dump into your blood over the course of your lifetime, you are going to die sooner. It lessens your longevity. So we have to break away from this. When we look at
that is actually a material fact. One of the markers that we used for longevity, or the lack thereof, was your sustained insulin level over a prolonged period of time. I used to say that sugar is the root of all evil. I think now inflammation is the root of all evil, but sugar is one of the driving sources of that. And learning to be disciplined and turn those things down for the longer term benefit is really a part of mentally getting through a fast.
We don't die of old age, we die of inflammation. And there's so many different things that trigger that inflammatory process. There's the foods that we eat, sugar. What's worse than sugar? The seed oils, right? The artificial sweeteners. So these are things that we've been literally eating for so long. And it's not our fault. I mean, if you look at some of the things that make us addicted to sugar, yes, there's stress eating, there's emotional eating, but what's bigger than that, it's what these manufacturers are actually putting into the food. It's the sugar, the seed oils, things like that actually make us addicted to those foods, the refined salt. So it's really getting away from those types of foods and moving more towards that fasted state, which is when all the magic happens. So what we're doing is we're basically decreasing what the body is getting in terms of food. But as you said, the body's still eating. I think one of the biggest superpowers of fasting is the power of something called autophagy, which you mentioned before. Autophagy is self-eating. So basically, you're not putting food into the body, but your body is actually eating. It's self-cleaning. It's like the street cleaners are coming in. They're sweeping up all the bad stuff, all those old, damaged, oxidized, inflammatory cells that normally our body can't get rid of when we're eating constantly, right? Because that's the problem. We're putting all these different foods into our bodies all day long. We don't have enough energy stores to get rid of things. Our detox pathways are paralyzed.
But that's very true. Evolutionarily, we remember the strongest survive. And so one of the things that we didn't know when ancestrally was when our next meal was coming. So we didn't have a cabinet with crackers, 3 feet off of our elbow. We didn't regulate our temperature. We didn't regulate our lighting. We didn't regulate our indoor environments to the extent that we do now. So digestion still maintains an extraordinarily high priority, right? So when you look at the physiology of the human body, when you eat, your body says, this is food, this is very high priority. It stops doing what it's doing and it focuses on digestion. Now, this is meant to protect you, right? It's a protection mechanism because if you didn't prioritize digestion, you wouldn't prioritize life. But in modern day, what's happened is we've perverted this process, right? Because when we eat constantly, the body is constantly prioritizing the food intake. So for example, if your liver, which is the main organ of detoxification in the human body, if your liver was involved in repair or regeneration or waste elimination or detoxification. And it was operating one of those pathways, and you eat, it stops that activity and focuses on digestion. So it's like, imagine every time that, if you had a maid that was cleaning your house, and every time you took food out of the refrigerator, the maid stopped the cleaning process. And if you did that 17 times a day, not only would the house never get clean, but trash would start to build up. The bed sheets would start to stink. The laundry would pile up. This is what's happening at a cellular level in our bodies when we distract ourselves with digestion, because digestion is a massive priority. So it shuts down waste elimination, repair, detoxification, regeneration. And when we shut those processes down because they're further down the chain of command, then what happens is eventually that waste, that exhaust backs up and it blows the motor. Mm-hmm. And we start to wonder why we have such a state of chronic disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, multiple chronic disease, skyrocketing levels of autoimmune disease in this country. It's because we lack the discipline to allow our bodies to take care of themselves.
Yeah, I always say the solution to pollution is dilution, right?
Hold on, the solution to pollution is dilution.
Right, so
that's a good one. You're gonna start hearing me say that on regular basis.
It's huge, but think about it. That's what this water fast is all about. Like,
I love all your isms.
Darrylism. We haven't been able to detoxify our body, and you mentioned those chronic, degenerative, inflammatory diseases. Mm-hmm. Heart disease, number one. Cancer, number two, which, by the way, has overtaken heart disease as the number one killer in 21 states now, right? You just don't get cancer. It doesn't work like that. If you go to the doctor, oh, you have cancer. No. Like, I lost my dad to esophageal cancer. I'm so passionate about this one. It's by the things that we eat. It's the thoughts that we think. And it doesn't happen overnight. This is something that takes time to develop in the body. Even things like Alzheimer's, which is what we call now type 3 diabetes of the brain, it parallels inflammation of the brain. So inflammation is at the root cause of every single health issue we have. And I love that you were talking about the gut and leaky gut so much, because that's where so much of this inflammation comes from.
Yeah, no question.
Leaky gut, literally, Hippocrates said the best, all disease begins in the gut.
Yeah.
And he was right.
And by the way, there's strong evidence that in as little as 24 or 48 hours of fasting, you have significant changes in the luminal wall of the gut, meaning the cheesecloth lining of the gut, right, which should have a high level of integrity. And it starts to sort of like wicker furniture, right? If you've ever had outdoor wicker furniture and you see that weave's supposed to be really nice and tight. It's only a single cell thick. Right. It is only a single cell. Sometimes there's only a layer of one single cell that separates your external environment from your internal environment. So think about all the opportunities for that to become leaky, for there to develop holes and tears and openings in that, and then for contents that shouldn't be leaving to leave and start this inflammatory process. The other thing that's really important to understand is the only reason why we eat is not to fuel our cells, right? I mean, there's not a single cell in anyone's body on this podcast right now that can get an ounce of energy from the food you eat. The only reason why you eat is to feed your gut bacteria, right? Your gut bacteria are the only organisms that are eating when you put food into your stomach and into your intestines. The gut bacteria then go through a process of converting that food into compounds that can pass through the wall of the gut, enter the bloodstream, and then go through the wall of your cells and eventually reach your mitochondria and be turned into one energy source called ATP. So the point is that a human being is not fed until their cell makes ATP in something called the mitochondria. But that's the last stage to occur. The first stage is you ingest solid food and you drink, juices and fluids, and those enter your gut. And then your gut bacteria convert those into compounds that leave the gut and enter the bloodstream. And then as they pass through the cell wall, they're broken further down through a process called methylation into different compounds that eventually will go through the wall of the mitochondria, be turned into energy by something called the Krebs cycle, electron transport chain, and that will spit out an energy source called ATP. And then you are fed, and then you are powered. So what can we do to improve the efficiency of that process? Seal our gut, give our gut bacteria a break, give the inflammatory process in the body a break so that our own natural process for handling inflammation can come in and reduce the amount of inflammatory markers. It would be really interesting. I've done some pre and post blood testing on clients that have gone through a 3-day water fast. What is astounding to me is the immediate step up in kidney function, liver function, and the step down in inflammatory markers. And for those Science. Yeah, cytokines. For those spirit animals of mine, science spirit animals, I'll give you the specific markers. When you look at a kidney panel, for example, there's three main markers that they look at in the kidney. One is called creatinine, which is different than creatine. It's a byproduct of muscle breakdown. One is BUN, which stands for blood urea nitrogen. So these are generally the markers that they use to measure poison levels in the blood. But then there's another marker, and I think this one is often overlooked, and it's called EGFR. It is the glomerular filtration rate. It's the rate at which blood is moving through your kidneys, right? 15 times every day, the full volume of your blood passes through your kidneys. 15 times. So just like any other filter, your air filter and your air conditioner, as it gets clogged, the filtration rate slows down. As the filtration rate slows down, the poison levels rise. As the poison levels rise, they cause further inflammation in the kidney, which further slows down the filtration rate. So if you are going to measure your EGFR, your glomerular filtration rate, and you are going to measure your poison levels, your blood urea nitrogen and creatinine, what we have seen, although anecdotally, is that in the vast majority of patients that do a 3-day water fast, there is a significant spike in kidney function. What happens is the filtration rate increases and the poison level drops. So just think about how good that is for your body. We see a similar thing happen in the liver. There's not a filtration rate for the liver, but there's a measure of liver poison called alkaline phosphatase. Alkaline phosphatase is sort of a broad measure of liver poison, if you will. It's what the liver is supposed to filter out of the blood. As this drops, it's a measure of liver efficiency. Then there are enzymes in the liver, multiple enzymes, GGT, AST, ALT. We see these liver enzymes drop. What this means is inflammation and irritation in the liver is dropping, which means the liver can improve its function, which means it can decrease the poison level. And you see these in 3 days, just 3 days, guys. Improvement in liver function, improvement in kidney function, and an improvement in the integrity, the luminal wall of the gut.
So much that goes back to the gut, because when you're saying we're feeding the gut bacteria, the question is which bacteria are we feeding, right? Because you got to look at your gut like a garden, right? We want lots of flowers, which are like the good, healthy bacteria, the probiotics, which means for life. But then there's the weeds, right? Those are the bad guys. Those are the opportunistic bacteria, parasites, viruses, things are just waiting for that opportunity. Like they're sensing, they have their radars on all the time, and they're sensing the stress hormones in your body, your cortisol, your epinephrine, norepinephrine, because when your gut microbiome is balanced, they can't touch your immune system. I mean, we got to give our immune system more credit than it's due, because 80% of our immune system does live in the gut. So what happens is that when we're feeding sugar and artificial sweeteners and dairy and all these other acidic ingredients, you're feeding these bad bugs, these weeds. And what happens is these weeds overtake the garden. They start to crowd out the good guys. And like Gary was mentioning, they start to eat their way through that gut lining, creating that leaky gut. Once they get into that, through that gut wall, into the blood, then it's like that systemic highway. Where is it going to go? It's going to hit the liver. It's going to go to the brain. So we can see anxiety. We can see depression. We can see brain fog. It can hit the thyroid gland. That's when we see the thyroid start to tank south. We get signs of hypothyroidism, and then we get all the different autoimmune signs. But what's autoimmune? It's leaky gut and some form of toxin or stealth pathogen or food sensitivity. So one of the best things about the bone broth on day one is that it's very soothing to the body. It's soothing to the gut. It's an anti-aging superfood. I mean, it has collagen, it has the amino acids proline and glycine, which are incredible for your gut wall. They literally help you heal damaged cells, damaged tissues. So they can help heal and seal that gut lining. They're loaded with minerals, so they're going to give you energy. They're going to help your brain. So when you combine this with the water fast, the body just starts to heal itself. You heal, you restore, you're making these things new again. And then before you know it, the downstream effects that we're all dealing with maybe now start to heal. Like Gary was mentioning, the liver enzymes go up. All those cytokine inflammatory markers start to go down. And, I deal with a lot of mold patients. We look at things like TGF-beta1, MMP9, like big time cytokines. And when we start to do fasting, these things just start to get suppressed. So the power that made the body heals the body. We just got to give that body that chance to heal. And that's what this water fast does.
Some clinical studies on fasting in combination with viral pathogens, like the impact on viral load, meaning the amount of viruses that you have in the body. And for those of you that aren't really familiar with, the viral pathologies and how they work, essentially, if you were to take a DNA strand from your body, this is a hard concept for people to wrap their arms around. Only 60% of our DNA is human DNA. 40% of every DNA strand in your body right now is viral. And what that means is every time that DNA unwinds and rewinds and unwinds and rewinds, it unzips and it replicates itself. And it unzips and it replicates itself. Every time that occurs, about 300 billion times a day, every time that occurs, your body is silencing viruses, right? Viruses that you have always had. So for example, if you had mono as a child, it comes back as Epstein-Barr as an adult. You didn't catch Epstein-Barr, you've always had it, right? If you had chickenpox as a child, it comes back as shingles as an adult. You didn't catch shingles, you've always had it. And so how do we prevent ourselves from having these viral pathogens just pop up from our past, right? By the way, this is a normal part of human physiology. You manufacture an antibody, the DNA silences it. If the DNA doesn't silence it and it breaks out again, then the antibodies come and try to, kill the virus. Remember, virus is not a living thing. It needs a host. It actually has to find a healthy cell, plug into that healthy cell and inject its DNA, right? So 3 things need to happen to keep our viral load down. Number 1, we need healthy DNA replication. You can improve the DNA replication, what's called dinucleotides. You can improve DNA replication through the fasting process because you reduce inflammation, which impairs DNA replication. The second thing that you can do is you can actually strengthen the immune system because your immune system right now is so busy. You wouldn't believe how many invaders are crawling around your house right now. It's not just viruses and bacteria and heavy metals and mold spores and mycotoxins and parasites and allergens and other things that we're very familiar with. It's the things you're not familiar with. It's your own cells in your own body that are metabolically shifting their state. They're actually not doing so well. And these are the cells we want to be really cautious of. It's one thing to detect disease and pathology, cancers and other ailments at their earliest stage. It's another thing to use our immune system from preventing those stages from even starting. That's the exciting thing, is that we have the possibility of preventing a whole host of complications down the line by just suffering, I use that term lightly, suffering through a few days of taking a break from not eating.
Yeah, and that's the power of autophagy. Think about how hard our bodies work 24/7. I mean, think about when the body gets sick. If you get a flu, a virus, COVID, cold, what do you want to do? You're not going to go out there and play soccer or tennis or pickleball. You want to just lay down and rest. Yeah. It's not a time for your body to eat. You don't feel like eating. Why? Because your body requires energy to heal. Right. But when you're not sick, you have to understand that there's still a war going on inside of our bodies. I mean, I've done thousands of gut microbiome tests. We look at the stool samples, which is called the GI map test, and we're looking at what's inside the gut, living there, basically creating this battle. And this is why we call them stealth pathogens. Just like a stealth fighter up there, you don't know it's there until all of a sudden it takes you out and you're dead. Well, we have these stealth pathogens living in our gut, and these stealth pathogens are basically at war with our immune system in the gut. So your body has this basically only a certain amount of energy that it can use. So if we're busy dealing with viruses and toxins and different forms of stealth pathogens, because the reality is, Gary, we're more toxic than we've ever been in human history. I mean, trying to be healthy in 2024 is like walking through a minefield. And it doesn't mean that we can't be healthy. We absolutely can. This is why we got to do the water fast. Yep. We have to free up the body's energy inventory so it could do what it was designed to do, which is detoxify in a healthy way.
And, one of the things that I was beginning to touch on, I said, when I try to talk to practitioners about how should we approach the body, number one, God didn't make a mistake, right? It's acting properly. Let's try to figure out why. But the second one that I didn't get a chance to talk about was what nutrient deficiency could be missing from this person's body that could be causing the expression of this disease. So for example, people that are deficient in certain amino acids, let's just walk through how a mental illness could come from a nutrient deficiency. We're so good at labeling diseases in this world. How about we get good at labeling nutrient deficiencies and try to fix the nutrient deficiency before we assume that somebody has a disease? So for example, for decades, we've had this, what's called the serotonin hypothesis of depression. And basically, to oversimplify it for the purposes of this water fast, it is that if you're low on serotonin, you're by definition depressed. And so if you're low on serotonin, and this is leading to depression, then what we'll do do is we'll put these chemical blockers called SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. We'll put these blockers into your brain, and what they'll do is they'll bind to certain sites in your brain, and they'll slow down the uptake of this neurotransmitter serotonin, which you have very little of because you're depressed. And the theory is, well, if we don't use up all the serotonin, they may not be happy or elated or joyful or aroused, but at least they won't go off a cliff. Well, if we just rewind that back and we say, well, if we're low on serotonin, shouldn't we try to raise serotonin? How do we raise serotonin? We go to the serotonin factory, which is right here in the gut, right? 90% of the serotonin in your body is right here. If you don't have it here, you can't have it here. So how do we turn the serotonin factory back on? We look at the nutrients that are required to build the neurotransmitter serotonin. Well, what are those? Well, it's the amino acid tryptophan, an essential amino acid. You guys all know about tryptophan. It's the one that makes you sleepy on Thanksgiving dinner, right? So you bolt down a bunch of turkey on Thanksgiving, and then you're hitting the couch just because of very high levels of tryptophan. But what if you had a deficiency in the amino acid tryptophan? Well, tryptophan is what the body methylates in your gut into the neurotransmitter serotonin. Then that neurotransmitter serotonin travels up the vagus nerve and goes to your brain. So is it possible that a deficiency in tryptophan could lead to a deficiency in the neurotransmitter serotonin, which could lead to a deficiency of that transmitter in the brain, affecting mood and emotional state? And now you've been told you have a disease or pathology or a mental illness or ADD or ADHD or OCD or manic depression or bipolar or any number of other conditions, when really you just have a nutrient deficiency. So if we can really fix and heal the gut, and I can't think of anything, including probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics, kefir vegetables, all of those things, which I do, I can't think of anything more impactful in a 72-hour period than a water fast, right? To get all of the things out of the way in our gut that are preventing possible methylation deficiencies. The same thing, by the way, is true with dopamine. We've all heard of dopamine. Well, what is dopamine? It's the main driver of behavior. Serotonin's the main driver of mood. Dopamine's the main driver of behavior. If you deplete dopamine from the human body or from the brain, people begin to engage in dopamine-seeking behavior. This is why people eat for emotion. Right? They're not actually after, maybe they do like the taste of the chocolate, but they're actually after how the chocolate short-term makes them feel, not necessarily how it tastes. This is why people will overeat and binge eat on processed foods, on highly refined sugars, because they actually release the dopamine, and it's that dopamine ding that they're after. So what's
so interesting about that is that the dopamine spikes the highest in the anticipation of the reward coming into the body, knowing that the chocolate or the cigarette or whatever it is coming into the body, boom, dopamine goes up.
Yeah.
And sugar spikes at 8 times more than the actual drug.
There are entire laboratories. I don't know what I do with my phone, but there are entire laboratories, true story, that are full of PhDs dedicated to studying the dopamine response to different applications, different colors, different fonts, different ringtones, so that, there is an army of scientists that are against you.
Yes.
Right? There's an army of scientists that are trying to gain your addictive desire to things like foods. Foods are chemically engineered very often to ding the dopamine receptor. If you want to look it up, it's called I believe it's called the RF1A2 receptor. It's at the back of your tongue. And what's really important about this receptor is you're required to swallow food in order to release this dopamine. So if I can chemically hammer that receptor, I can chemically get a larger ding of dopamine. And what that means is you start to not like the food, you start to become addicted to the food. This is why I've known people that drink 12 or 14. I actually knew a gentleman that drank 16 diet sodas a day. He couldn't go more than, like people that chain smoke, he couldn't go more than a few minutes without really having diet soda because he was addicted to that dopamine receptor. But what about the fact that dopamine is actually made from amino acids too, phenylalanine and tyrosine? So could it be that we're deficient in amino acids, meaning we're deficient in dopamine? And the answer is yes. So that's the second thing. I always try to say, if God didn't make a mistake, then what nutrient deficiency is missing from this body? And the final one is, what is the common link between all of the issues that a person is suffering from? What is their common link? Do they have early onset dementia, congestive heart failure, and peripheral neuropathy, or do they have a circulatory issue? Do they have bipolar, manic depression, ADD, ADHD, or OCD, or do they have a serotonin deficiency? So we can actually look at nutrients and ingredients that, when depleted, have a myriad of seemingly unrelated consequences, like the hub of a wheel versus the spokes of a wheel. And so when I think about what are the biggest, most impactful things we can do to increase our state of optimal health, number one, get 8 essential amino acids, the 2 essential fatty acids, these are omega-3 fatty acids, and get the 91 essential minerals. That's where we all start. Once we get the basics covered, then we can start chasing the exotics. We can test for other deficiencies. We can start taking all the fun stuff like resveratrol or NMN or do any DIV drips. But none of that stuff is going to matter if we don't get the basics covered. And then what are some of the activities that we could put into our daily life? Hormetic stresses. Hormetic stress is something that stresses the body and causes it to strengthen, right? Fasting is a hormetic stress, very much like cold water, very much like exercise, right? We have to tear our muscles for our muscles to grow. We have to load our bones for our bones to strengthen. We have to challenge our immune system for our immune system to grow stronger. By fasting, you put the body under hormetic stress. What does it do? It strengthens. So a couple of things, because I know that for the folks that are on this, we're going to answer some of the most asked questions. Okay, great. We have 15 minutes. Okay, let me just go straight to the questions. Okay, so we are going to answer some questions here. I wanted to make sure that before those of you that are not moving into the VIP with us, I wanted to make sure that I covered like all the stages of fasting. So, first your sugar levels are going to drop. Your insulin levels are going to drop. Your body is going to start to ease into a state of what's called ketosis, where it shifts its fuel source from sugars to fats, something called beta hydroxybutyrate. This is a very low inflamed state.
So good for the brain.
So good for the brain. Day 2's, your inflammatory markers are going to start to drop. As your inflammatory markers begin to drop, your mental clarity, your short-term focus and all is going to improve. By days 3, your body is going to start to secrete more growth hormone. And you're actually going to get high on your own supply, meaning your growth hormone levels are going to begin to rise. So you're going to harness all of these benefits for free inside your own body. Okay, so let's go to some questions. We can take them one at a time. Guys, I really hope that you're finding this helpful. I know I'm talking fast. I'm just trying to give as much information in an hour as I possibly can. What if you don't have the amino acids? Can we add spices to the broth? Can I have sparkling water during the fast? So if you don't have the amino acids, don't worry about it. There's like a good, better, best. You don't need to have the amino acids to go through the water fast at all. Your body will actually get amino acids by eating other cells. It will eat those cells and break them into amino acids. Can we add spices to our broth?
Yeah, I think that's a good thing to do. It also will help with the cravings as well, for sure.
Yeah. Can I have sparkling water during a fast? Yes. And can I chew gum? Yes. I would prefer that you chew gum that is aspartame free and artificial sweetener free. I like one that's called Pure, P-U-R. It's aspartame free. I'm sure there's tons of other ones out there. That's just the one that comes to mind.
People are also wondering if they can take more than 1 scoop of amino acids or salt a day.
Can you take more than 1 scoop of amino acids or salt a day? Yes, you can take 2 scoops of the amino acids per day without breaking the fast. And you can also use the mineral salts. I use them. I'm not like hyper specific about measuring these. I take a pinch, I put it in my water in the morning, I stir it up and whack it back. I do it again in the afternoon, and I do it once in the evening. If you're doing an entire teaspoon, that's a lot. I would do it never more than 1/4 of a teaspoon in a serving. It doesn't take many minerals. The nice thing about that Baja Gold, it's like, that's my favorite life hack, because it's like $15 for a bag of this stuff, and it'll probably last you 5 years. And so many of us are mineral deficient. I've heard from thousands of you guys about how many of you stopped waking up with sore muscles in the morning, stopped waking up with calf cramps, and stopped waking up with headaches in the morning just by adding mineral salt to your drinking water.
It is so important on this because your body is going to be going into a detox reaction. Some people will have more, some people will have less, but we need to neutralize those toxins, those detoxifying agents coming out of the body, literally that have been embedded in your tissues like your lymphatic system is going to be active. So you want to be calm. You don't want to be like overactive on this, but you also want to gently move your body because that will get the lymph flowing. That'll help move the toxins, but it's those mineral salts that are going to help you neutralize those acids to help escort them out of the body. If we're not getting them out of the body, then what happens? They can kind of recirculate, replant themselves. So better out than in.
What brand of sparkling water? Mountain Valley makes a sparkling water. Any brand of sparkling water, Penna, that you can get in glass. Specifically during a fast, we want to remove as much of the toxic load as possible. Yes, if you're rushing through an airport and you can't get glass bottled water, then by all means get plastic bottled water. My preference is that you drink glass, because during this 3 days, if we're going to do this, let's really do it, right? Let's take as much of the toxic load. If you can brush without fluoride toothpaste, if you can get away without putting colognes and deodorants on, especially the ones that have aluminums in them, if you can try to really focus on your sleep score tonight, darken your room, chill your room down, unplug the electronics 6 feet from your head, do a contrast shower before you go to bed at night, use an eye mask, stay off your phone when you're in bed, use my breathing technique, which we call liquid, or we call natural Xanax, the 6-second inhale, followed by a 3-second hold, followed by a 6-second exhale through a straw. We really wanted, this is the time for you to do breath work. This is the time for you to expose your skin to sunlight. This is the time for you, if you haven't grounded lately, to take a few minutes and take your shoes off and go out and ground on the surface of the earth. Let's really give this 3 days to our bodies. I mean, I understand that we have kids and careers and everything else that have to be taken care of, but outside of those, let's make ourselves a priority and let's make this suffering worth it. Right? Let's make these few days where we're depriving ourselves of food really, really worth it. Maybe you take a break from the shampoos and the body washes and the fluoride toothpaste and all of the, these colognes and antiperspirants that have aluminum in them. We try to take a break for those for the 3 days. We really tried to get hyper specific with our waters, and we're just going to drink out of glass bottled water for these 3 days. We're going to really try to go the extra mile to take all of the toxic load off our body. So when it's engaged in that process of autophagy, that it's as effective as possible. Are some coffees better than others? Can I still work out on this fast? Yes, there are some coffees that are better than others. I'm developing a list of coffees that are not only organic and lower in acid, but also, and I use the acid kicking minerals in all of my coffee, so you can reduce the acid that way. You can even get the ones that have you've got ones that have MCT oil in them and brain boosting.
Oil.
Yeah, brain boosting.
Acid minerals, Himalayan salts, 5 fat-burning enzymes. So it's amazing.
So you can turn your coffee into a health drink. But the other thing that I've been way down the rabbit hole on not just organic coffees, but organic coffees that are washed for molds.
Yes.
I'm developing a list of those. So if you check back on theultimatehuman.com, I'm going to post those there. I don't have affiliations with these guys. It's not an affiliate link. It's not my intention to drive sales. It's my intention to find the best brands and give them a voice. So over time, you're going to see that I begin to give more of a voice to the best brands on my site, whether I have an affiliation with them or not. So, and the next one is the ones I'm going to popularize about
I love
coffees.
that because coffee beans are the most heavily sprayed crop in the world. 92% of them are infected with pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, glyphosate, which is a cancer-causing chemical, not to mention all the mold and the mycotoxins, which that's something I'm so passionate about because mold took me out. It nearly killed me.
Yep.
So
I remember that.
Yeah.
Your journey with mold.
So
By the way, you need to watch the podcast between Dr. Joffreys and I. It's an amazing podcast. It's available for free on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you watch your podcast. But we go deep down the rabbit hole of mycotoxins, mold spores, what he did to get rid of it, some of the naturopathic treatments like ozone therapies and other things that you might want to know about, especially if you're living in Miami, where I am, which happens to be the mold capital of the world. Yay, Miami. Can I still work out on this fast? Yes. And how often can I fast? I recommend that you fast about every 3 or 4 months. There's something called cyclical fasting where you just take every Sunday off for 24 hours from food. You can do fast mimicking, which Dr. Walter Longo has popularized in his book, The Longevity Diet. He also just recently published some additional clinical studies on this. I also did a podcast with him. Or you can do these 3-day water fasts roughly every every 3 to 4 months. I try to do it 3 times a year. So this is my second time this year. What else do we got? All right, 5 minutes left. We're switching to VIP. What else do these guys need to know? Guys, please, I promise you I'm going to give you more value than $47 if you switch to being VIP. This is a chance for us to interact directly with one another, to have your questions answered directly. I want this to be as valuable and impactful for you and your families as possible. If this is your first water fast, hopefully you got your spouse or your other folks in your house on board. There's nothing worse than your family tempting you with like 3 meals a day being out on the counter when you're trying to go through a water fast. I find that couples that fast together actually have a higher percentage chance of completing this together. It's safe for kids. I wouldn't do children that are lower than prepubescent years without talking to a doctor, but my kids have water fasted. In fact, they're water fasting with me today. What else do we need to know before we switch over to VIP?
Yeah, working out is the biggest question.
Oh, working out was the other big question. Yes, you can still work out on the fast. I would stay away from really heavy lifting or ultra distance types of workouts. Your body is, nutrient deficient, so it doesn't have the amino acids and the proteins it needs to repair muscle. So this is one of the reasons why I take the perfect aminos. This is a good time for workouts like yoga, breath work, for walks, or, prolonged walks, body weight exercises, air squats, core exercises, things that are not going to tear a lot of muscle and cause a lot of muscle repair or put you into a high VO2 state, meaning getting your VO2 max or your respiratory rate and your exercise rate outside of the basal metabolic zone. So in other words, no heavy lifting, no ultra marathoners, walks, yoga, breath work, light weights, all okay during a fast. Oh, and sauna use during a fast is a must. If you have access to a sauna, it's a great way to amplify the detoxification process. You are actually, believe it or not, more prone to dehydration when you're fasted than when you're not fasted. So remember that, just keep up your hydration. Take a liter of fluids into the sauna with you if you're in there for 25, 30 minutes. Take a liter of fluids, put a little pinch of the Baja Gold sea salt. You should be absolutely fine in a sauna. Cold plunging too. Does anyone know if drinking an energy drink will break my fast? Yes, the majority of energy drinks will break your fast. They will be processed through the liver. The majority of them are going to contain tons of artificial sweeteners, multiple artificial dyes, fructose, artificial flavors, all kinds of chemical additives. So let's steer clear of those. Can I drink more than the 2 liters of spring water? Absolutely, you can. I normally consume a gallon of water per day. Yes, just make sure that the gallon of water is spring water with some electrolytes in it. One of the things that people do on a fast for some reason is they get distilled water. I don't even know where the distilled water fast started. It shouldn't have started. Distilled water is devoid of all minerals, right? So it's going to actually pull minerals into it. It will actually dilute you of the electrolytes and minerals that you need. So I think we are good to go. So listen, guys, my closing thoughts for this are that anyone can do a fast if you set your mind to it. I want you to not think about 3 days down the road from now. I just want you to think about getting to bed tonight. Set short-term goals for yourself. Your body is the dopamine is going to walk you to the refrigerator. It's going to walk you to the kitchen cabinet. It's going to walk you to the drawer where the snacks are. Just overpower that with your own willpower. A good thing to do is to drink a glass of water and find a place to do a quick round of breath work. Just 5 deep breaths can actually change your state. Just shift your state, walk outside, move your body, do whatever you need to do to distract yourself from the impetus to eat. That hunger response is your body shifting its metabolism towards autophagy. That is a good sign. Most of you are going to have a dramatic mental breakthrough sometime during this fast where you have a period of clarity like you haven't had potentially in years. That is the absence of inflammation, right? And the presence of optimal health. So embrace it. I'll be with you guys tomorrow at the same time. I'll be with you again on Thursday at the same time. If you have questions, email them to my team. Now's the time for those of you that are thinking about being a VIP to switch over to VIP. I promise you, I am going to pour as much value into this VIP group as possible.
Yeah.
Anything they need to know?
Just remember that your thirst and hunger goes to the same part of the brain. So if you do have those times when you're feeling hungry or hangry, which we all do, just drink water, all right? Solution by dilution. Remember that. Drink water.
I love all your isms.
Add some mineral salts to it and wait a few minutes and then see how you feel. If you're still feeling that hunger there, then what I think a good thing to do is just move your body, because again, motion is emotion, energy, emotion. You got to get that body moving, because sometimes it's just the endorphins that we need, the enkephalons, to kind of get cranking in the body. So drink water, hydrate the entire time, sip, don't flood, sip. Like if it's a downpour, you're gonna get a flood. We just had it this morning here. I was driving down through that, but think about like a mystical rainforest that's been like just misting all day long. So you want to just be sipping all day long and get your body hydrated, because what you're doing is you're giving those nutrients to the cells, and that's what those mineral salts is, driving those mineral salts into your cells. But guys, we're going to do this one day at a time. Think about the road ahead, how good you're going to feel on day 3. It's going to be so worth it. So I'm super excited to get rocking.
Guys, thank you for your trust and confidence. VIPs, stay tuned.
Just in VIP.
All right. Hey guys. So VIPs.
What's up?
Awesome. This is gonna be a great hour. You know, really gonna. A lot of you guys did the last water fast with me and had such a good experience. You're doing this one, so thank you again for your trust and confidence. These are game changers for our state of health. You know, you're actually save money over the next few days by not buying all that food. Before we get to some questions, I'd love to just do a quick round of breath work. Another thing that we can do to just enhance the fasting process is to get lots of oxygen into our bodies, so that, you know, oxygen, the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. So a few times a day, we can just take a little break and do some breath work. So why don't we just do one round of 5 breaths? We're going to do 5 obnoxiously deep breaths. And then on the 5th breath, we're going to inhale as hard as we can, and we're going to exhale, and we're going to hold as long as we can. When we can't hold any longer, we're going to take a deep breath in. We're going to hold that breath as long as we can. We're going to let it out, and then we'll just get right to the questions in the next phase. So find a place to sit comfortably. Please, if you're driving, don't do this part of the VIP. Or if you're in the shower, you're standing up, just find a place to sit down comfortably. And let's do 3 rounds of 5 breaths. Okay, here we go. Now just close your eyes, put your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Try to get outside of your head into your outside environment. Distract yourself from the impetus to breathe. What's happening while you're holding your breath is the carbon dioxide is building up in your tissues. It's building up in your vascular system and causing your vascular system to dilate. When you can't hold any longer, take a deep breath in. Hold that. Put your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Try to resist the urge to exhale. When you can't resist the urge anymore, just breathe out. Woo! I love that. Just after 1 round of 5 breaths, I feel the impact of that. For those of you that are new to breath work, doing 3 rounds of 5 breaths is the place to start. Remember that breath hold is actually very important. Carbon dioxide, you've heard me say this before, is the main vasodilator in the human body. The reason why we get vascular during exercise is because of the carbon dioxide going back to the lung. And so it's a vasodilator. So one of the things we get when we hold our breath is that vasodilation. So the next time we breathe, all that oxygen just hits those tissues and changes the oxygen tension in the tissues. And that's what you want. The presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. It is the main free radical neutralizer. So let's just fire it up and get right to some questions, man. I hope you guys are halfway into your fast. I mean, look, most of us are going to bed in another 5 or 6 hours anyway. You're almost done day one.
The easiest part of fasting.
Yeah. The easiest part of fasting, sleeping. Hi, guys. Oh, do I turn? Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I can hear you now. Hi, John. John Flores.
Hey, what's up?
Hey, man. How are you, buddy?
Doing well, thank you. So my question is a weird one. But I was talking to one of my friends yesterday, and he recommended that I come and speak to y'all about this. So I've never apparently had a normal bowel movement. All my stools have always been soft. I usually go 4 to 5 times a day, and I'm regular as far as like the schedule. I'm pretty clean about the things that I eat. Sorry, my kids are very excited to be on this.
Hi, guys.
But I start every morning. First thing I put in is okay.
You got quite the tribe there, man.
Yeah, we got a lot of us. So the first thing I start off every morning is I drink coffee with collagen. That's kind of been a standard for me for several years. If I do eat breakfast, it's usually 1 whole egg and 2 egg whites, and then some kind of carb. So toast, bagel, not necessarily picky about those things. Peanut butter, banana, 2 apples every day for lunch. And then for supper, it's usually whatever my wife makes. We eat decently vegetarian, so we don't need a lot of meat. But that's kind of been routine. We use some cooking oil spray, sometimes olive oil. Onions and beans and rice are another big staple in our family. But I didn't know that I was a weirdo, and I want to figure out, like, should I be concerned about my gut health? Should I be concerned about what's happening and what's going on?
Yes.
Or is it something that's just normal for me?
Okay.
Be concerned about it, but don't be worried about it, because this is all reversible. Anytime you have loose stool, how long has the loose stools been going on for?
Oh, sorry. How long have they been going on for? His whole life.
So honestly, ever since I can remember, I would say since high school.
That's a long time.
I always assumed it was due to my hyperactivity. I became more active in high school. So it turns out girls don't like guys that are unhealthy. So I started running in my junior year of high school. And I just always attested it to that. That's when I got into creatine and protein shakes and that sort of stuff. I daily take creatine. I take a green supplement. So I try to be very meticulous about what I put in my body. And I guess like that's why I never thought it was weird, because since I've been in high school, I've always, what I can remember, have had loose stools. It's a big deal if something is solid coming out of me.
So it's not normal to have loose stools like that. It tells me that there's definitely some form of irritation and inflammation in your gut. The question is what's driving that inflammation? And usually it's a short list. So from the foods let's start with the foods, right? That you're talking about. Number one, you got to go gluten-free right now. It's what I call a WMD, a weapon of mass destruction for your gut. Every time you put gluten in, it's like gasoline on the fire. You have to give that gut a little bit of time to heal. And if you keep dumping those foods in, that's going to actually create more inflammation. It can't heal. So for the next few months, at least the next 4 to 6 months, I would go gluten-free. And then I would go dairy-free as well, because that's also very inflammatory for the gut. And then you mentioned peanut butter. Peanut butter is one of those things that has 21 different forms of aflatoxin, which is a cancer-causing fungus. So again, it's the proteins in there can irritate the gut. So I would basically switch to like a raw almond butter, a cacao butter, a coconut butter. That's going to be a much better option than the peanut butter. But the reality is like, what's the short list of things that are creating this inflammation in your gut that's creating that loose stool? And by the way, when you have those loose stools, you're draining yourself of minerals as well. So it's going to deplete your body. Like is your energy really low right now?
No, so that's the other thing. I'm known to be a high energy individual. I do triathlons, like just did half Ironman, did really well in that. Like I exercise usually a couple hours a day. So
that's good. We always have to distinguish between willpower and energy, because you sound like a driver, someone that has a lot of willpower. So kind of make that distinguish. But there's definitely going to be some food sensitivities going on inside your gut. You got to remember, you're not what you eat, you're what you digest, absorb, and assimilate. So you could be eating healthy foods, which we call strength foods, even organic foods. It doesn't mean that your body's breaking those foods down properly. The other thing that we have to think about is as we get older, we don't get stronger, we get a little weaker, right? We don't produce more acid in the stomach, we produce less acid in the stomach. And what happens is we can't digest our food. Right? The food that we are trying to digest, we get food sensitivities because we're not really breaking it down. So now the immune system in the gut starts to attack it because it's like, oh, that looks like an avocado, but no, that's not. We're going to attack that. It's non-self. That creates inflammation, right? And then when we have low acid in the stomach, it's the first line of defense. So we're exposed to toxins in the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, the water that we drink. So literally it's like a free pass right into the gut for stealth pathogens. Like I could guarantee you, if we tested your gut, there's going to be some form of inflammatory bacteria and/or parasite or active virus in there. I see it every time. And those things are what we call stealth pathogens, because the other doctors out there, they're not testing you for it. I mean, you've been dealing with this pretty much your whole life. How come you're still dealing with it? So again, the mantra always is test, don't guess, test, don't guess. So make some of those edits in your diet that I talked about. I love the collagen in the coffee. Please drink organic coffee. You want to kick your coffee's acid. So very important is that when your coffee is very acidic, that's like gasoline on the fire to all the stuff that you're dealing with right now. So you put a packet of the acid kicking coffee in your coffee that neutralizes the acid. Again, it's taking another thing out of the gut that's going to cause more inflammation. So those tips, gluten-free, watch the dairy, get off the peanut butter, swap that with like an almond butter.
Oh yeah.
And then you should definitely be doing some testing to really see what is in there that could be driving this issue.
And if you want to email my team, I can put you directly in touch with Dr. Goffreys.
Okay, so again, this is my first time aware of y'all, but I heard you mention earlier on the phone call that you're down in Miami. So I'm up in Tampa. Is there something that I need to be aware of to go visit down in Miami?
Yes.
If
you email my team, they'll give you the whole procedure. You can get tested in Tampa. You can get tested down here. And I can put you directly in touch with Joffrey's, or we could even, make arrangements to work together. I'm going to jump to the next question though. Hi to your kids too, man. You got quite an active tribe there. It was so funny. Did you see them like putting their heads in?
We can add stress to the list.
Yeah. Hi there.
Hello. I have a couple of
Janice?
questions. The first question I have is I'm taking DHEA, and I want to know, can I take that without stopping autophagy during my fast? Or should I just wait till my fast is over?
It's BAPA?
Yes.
I'm not sure I'm familiar with what BAPA is.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you very well, and I might have said it DHEA.
Oh, DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone. Yeah, so DHEA is a precursor for hormones. So you can take that on day one. I would take days 2 and days 3 off, right? Okay. So DHEA, because DHEA is pretty slowly metabolized. It's dihydroepiandrosterone, something we test for on hormone panels. Generally, if you're low on hormones like the hormone testosterone, sometimes estrogen, other hormones, they'll put you on DHEA so that your body has the raw material it needs to do its job. So taking a 48-hour break on days 2 and 3 won't long-term harm your DHEA level at all.
And the other thing that I have a concern about, other than the fast that I'm doing right now, I do intermittent fasting and would try to do it long enough that I get some autophagy during that time.
Great.
I've heard some mixed thoughts on perfect aminos. I'm hearing that perfect aminos does stop autophagy, even though it wouldn't stop your fast as in like raise your blood sugar, but it would actually create an insulin response and stop autophagy.
So let me respond to that. So if you look at the research on fasting or the research that Dr. Minkoff and Body Health did, you're going to find three things. Number one, it definitely does not break a fast. Number two, the amount of amino acids that you're getting is not enough to fuel your body for an entire day. It's certainly not the equivalent of the protein equivalent that you need per kilogram of body weight. What it's doing is it's preventing you from muscle wasting, right? So very often what happens, especially if we exercise during a fasted period, is the body that is using fat as an energy source, it's not an efficient enough energy source to give you the energy that you need. So it tries to use glucose, of which there is none in the bloodstream. There's a backup form of energy called glycogen, which is stored sugar that comes from your liver and also from your muscles. And then after that, it will begin to literally secrete an enzyme that allows you to metabolize your own lean muscle. It allows you to turn your lean muscle into amino acids. So it will prevent that process. 2 servings of perfect amino a day will not prevent the process of autophagy.
Okay, that's good to know, because I've been taking it and I was like, oh, wait, am I doing this wrong? Okay.
Super.
Yep, I'm actually on day
there
2
another way
because
that
of the
I
way my
can do that?
schedule turned out. So I'm doing great with the water fast, and
I can hear, but then I hear the echo. Did we answer your question? Okay, beautiful. All right. Thank you so much. Is it Magic Cook?
Maggie, can you hear me?
Oh, Maggie Cook. I'm sorry, it is Maggie Cook. I was like, you can't have a name like Magic Cook come into a water fast.
Right.
I was gonna really read you the riot act, but if it's Maggie Cook, you're welcome to do that.
Hey, you're giving me some ideas here. So anyway, I just want to say thank you for everything. I went and got the Whoop, and I found a band
awesome.
that goes with the iPhone, so I can wear both of them together at the same time.
That's cool.
And I wanted to say that my mold almost also killed me.
Wow.
And I've been through a journey of years and years of recovering, and a lot of health issues that I've had. Last year, I was about to speak on one of the most prestigious platforms in the United States, and I collapsed in the backstage. And I decided I need to do something, but I don't know how or what. And I was asking God, please show me somebody that could help me through this journey. And a month later, I found your company, and I did the gene test. I did all the labs, and it's been 6 months, and my blood work came back 100% normal. So I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh my God, this just gave me goosebumps over my whole body.
Yes, because it's so important to be able to perform, and much less when you feel terrible. But everything came 100%, back well. And the only thing that I'm working on is on my thyroid, my hormone, because they gave me radiation to drink like 30 years ago, and I'm repairing that right now. But even that came normal with the dosage that I'm taking, the all natural dosage. So my question is, can I keep injecting GAC, NAD, and glutathione while I'm doing the water fast?
You can. Here's my preference. Is that for the second 2 days of the water fast, we really we try to take all of that toxic load off. So the GAC, or what's called the GAC live, glutamine, arginine, carnitine, and usually it has live in it too, leucine, isoleucine, valine. The GAC live and the glutathione, they're not pure GAC or glutathione, right? They have sulfonamides in them. Some of what the sterile suspension that's in there. So, as hyper diligent as we can to take every ounce of toxic load off the body that we can, right? I understand people, if you worked out and you got sweaty, you might want to use some body, lotion to wash your body or something. But every little minor amount of toxic load that we can take off our body, especially since we're already doing the hard part, which is not eating for this period of time, for that last 48 hours is really important. You can keep up with the salts. You can keep up with the acid kicker for your coffee. You can definitely keep up with 1 serving of perfect amino. But everything else other than spring water, if we can get rid of it for 48 hours, other than medications, it shouldn't drop you off a cliff. I'm just really trying to make the pathway to the body's system of autophagy as efficient as possible. I think you muted yourself. Yeah, you're muted.
What about progesterone?
Not when I can't hear it. I can keep it lower.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. What about progesterone? Because I believe that was a prescription.
Yes, I would continue with the progesterone.
Okay. And one other question. I'm speaking on a stage on Thursday at 1 p.m. and
Okay.
I'm on a water fast. Is it okay to, if I need it, to take an additional cup of coffee right before?
No question. You can take an additional cup of coffee right before. Absolutely. And if you're not,
coffee.
yeah, and if you're not speaking until Thursday, I mean, look, if you're feeling weak or anything, you can even do a bowl of bone broth and ease out of the fast a little bit earlier. One of the things I'm going to encourage people to do is break your fast with berries, organic yogurts, bone broths, things like that, soups, lentils, like things that are going to be easy on your digestive system when you come back out of the fast. So congratulations and good luck in your stage talk. And thank you for the kind words. I mean, that
yes. Thank you so much.
a lot to me. You're welcome. I literally thought it said magic cook.
I like that.
Said Maggie. Hey man.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great.
What's up?
I have 3 questions. Why is it 3 days and not 4 or 5? Is it the same benefit or is it different benefits?
Yeah, so I'll let him take a stab at this too. So the majority, what we consider the end stage of fasting, right? Like as we go through this different stages of fasting, the insulin going down, sugars going down, or insulin sensitivity beginning to rise, the body shift into a state of ketosis from a state of sugar metabolism, and then eventually through this phase of autophagy and into where we get the increased growth hormone. That's where you're getting the maximum benefit from fasting. Extending the fast is also beneficial. You can do 4 days, 5 days, 7 days. The uptake, meaning the attrition rate, is parabolic after 3 days. And so what I'm really trying to do is introduce people to the magic of fasting, not be an end all. It's certainly not the whole journey that you could go on with fasting. There are fasting clinics that will have intake patients and they will fast for 30 days, 45 days, 60 days at a time for really severe and chronic conditions. I know that regularly I have cardiologist friends of mine that will put patients on observed 7-day fasts, and they find that that's actually really good for plaquing, for scarring, even for post-operative repair. So I actually have cardiologists that will do that. My appeal is to the masses. One of the things that I'm very conscious about not becoming is an ultra woke biohacker that only talks to ultra woke biohackers. I really feel like this message is needed by the masses. And in my industry, the majority of guys are really trying to impress you with how smart they are. And I'm trying to impress you with how easy it is to be inspired by small changes that could have demonstrative outcomes in your life. So I picked the greatest benefit for the least amount of effort, right? I try to do this with cold plunging and dieting and things too, where I just tell you, listen, 48 to 50 degrees, 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum. That's all you need in a cold plunge. Could you get a slightly more benefit if you went beyond 6 minutes? Could you get slightly more benefit if you were a little bit colder? Maybe. But the truth is that you don't need it. So that's the reason why we designed the fast to be 3 days.
Yeah, I think 3 days is doable for a lot of people. When you start on day 1, everyone's excited. Day 2, it's like, oh man, here we go. But then I'm done tomorrow. So from a psychological standpoint, a lot more people are going to succeed. But from a physiological standpoint, you're going to lose fat, adipose tissue. You're going to lose visceral fat. So they've done studies where they look at a baseline and they basically measure 6 weeks down the road with 3 and 5 water fasts. So I do think 3 is the magic number, but 5, you could get a little bit more benefit, but you're also losing water. You're losing a little bit of protein. You're losing glycogen. You're losing fiber. Fast forward 6 weeks later, assuming you're maintaining a healthy diet once the fast is over, all of those things will come back up. The only thing that doesn't is the fat. So what the research shows is that you will continue to lose adipose and visceral fat. But here's the cool thing. It's a 3-to-1 ratio, visceral fat to adipose. And we all know that visceral fat is the fat that kills us. But the cool thing is that with those fats going down continually, we also saw an increase in lean tissue, which was amazing. So it's not like 3 days over and all of a sudden I'm done. It's like the body is still in this detoxification mode. And as long as we continue to put foods in the body that strengthen the body from the inside out, what you're going to find is that you'll continue to reap the benefits of the water fast, even though your water fast is over.
Great. And just a couple more questions, fast ones. Tea for lunch or dinner, and chlorophyll, and like liquid chlorophyll, or lemon, just lemon, like in the morning with salt.
Lemon is fine. Lemon is fine. Teas are fine. I would skip the liquid chlorophyll on days 2 and 3. Yeah.
And just for last,
liquid chlorophyll is that there aren't any preservatives in there because it's a liquid. So we tend to go with more dehydrated green juice powders. Again, we have a great one. The acid kicking greens are great. It's like a seed. You put it in water, all of a sudden, all those nutrients just come back alive. So I prefer powders over the liquid.
I would agree with that.
Okay. And you said preferably liquid chlorophyll after the fast.
Liquid chlorophyll after a fast, right? Not during
After
the
the
fast.
3 days.
Yes.
Okay. And speaking of visceral fat, in my case, this is my second 3-day water fast. And my first one, I scanned myself before and after, and I lost 50% of my visceral fat. So that was
Wow.
Amazing.
Fantastic.
Well done.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's great to hear those benefits. Okay. I think it's Mimi.
Yeah,
Hi, Mimi. Mimi, rocking the brand.
I got the memo.
Yes.
As a matter of fact, I won this one in our first challenge that I did, which was
Well,
the breath
congratulations.
challenge. Yeah. I'm going to be as quick as I can because I know a lot of people want to ask questions. I recently did from Nature's, oh shoot. Anyway, I did an herbal detox for parasites because I was pretty sure. I didn't test for it. I didn't have time for that. I was eating some conventional meats with my mom, and I just really felt sure that a lot of gut disruption that was happening could be pushed back by doing this cleanse. It had the pawpaw, the black walnut. It was all, like an herb pack I did for 10 days. Now I'm rebalancing my gut with the what do you call it that I put in probiotics that will be able to get past the stomach acids. Do I take a break from that tonight and tomorrow because I took it last night? I'm not eating, but would I benefit from just continuing with the one capsule of the probiotics tonight, or should I just skip for a couple of days?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing to take the probiotic. We all need probiotics. We get 1/1,000,000th the amount that our ancestors used to get. And I think for you, it's not necessarily about the parasite living there. It's about your gut allowing the parasite to live there.
Okay.
So it's about the biologic terrain. So I think you keep on rebalancing your gut. The water fast is going to be huge for that. And when the water fast is over, really focusing on those good foods that are going to strengthen the gut. Omega-3 fatty acids are critical because they basically help regulate the immune system. Vitamin D3 and K2, because what happens is when there's a parasite in the gut, your entire immune system gets dysregulated. It's basically in hyper overdrive. So we have to re-strengthen the gut. So the probiotics are great. L-glutamine to strengthen the gut wall is a really good thing to do.
Okay.
And ultimately, as we get older, we have to improve the hydrochloric acid in our stomach because we lose it. So what I would suggest doing is start with like a teaspoon of raw organic apple cider vinegar.
Okay.
Do this in 1/3 cup of warm water, ideally. And basically you're going to drink that about 20 to 30 minutes before your biggest meal of the day. That's going to
takes my breath away. I can barely put it to my mouth. Okay. Yeah, I've tried the apple cider vinegar. So L-glutamine would be something that I would purchase. I'm waiting for my Optimize to come, and I also waited quite a long time to finally get the order in for Neuromedulla. So I'm hoping that, but I decided something came to me, and I thought, you know what, there's probably an imbalance somewhere for me to have the deep throwdowns of depression where I'm not even handling life. Because before, when I was pretty
that's all
healthy,
going to change once those things.
yeah,
are
so I've got those two coming. Now, do I need to continue with D3K2 added to the optimized, or is there enough
Yes.
in there? Okay,
Yes,
and what
there's
about my
4,000 IUs in the
methylated B?
optimized. There's 5,000 IUs in the other one.
Okay, so I have the methylated B vitamin that's from Solar Ray that I'm taking 3 of those.
You're going to
capsules out.
discontinue that when you receive the optimized.
Yes, that's $30 a month. And then how about my vitamin C? Because I got a really great vitamin C and zinc. I heard you on a podcast say zinc.
Nope, you're going to get those in the optimized too.
Yay! All right, now I
You're
can afford
saving
to
so
order
much
something
money, you don't know
else.
what to do with yourself.
I don't even know. I was so healthy and happy when I was working outside with horses. I was a stall hand. I was
Amen.
squat lifting and in the sun and, like
There's
sweating
a lot to
all
be
the
said for
time.
that.
Okay, so last question, EGFR. My mom has been, she had a scan for a sonogram and they found a kidney stone and they didn't tell her about it. That was in March. She keeps having these repeated UTIs, but she's got this repeated spasm. Should we request her urologist to run the EGFR for her kidneys? Would that be something?
You should request that they run a kidney panel, right? Not
Okay.
EGFR is one part of the kidney panel. Have them run a kidney panel. Remember that most kidney stones are not actually calcium stones. They're not actually like bone mineral stones. They're actually minerals, right? It's mineralizations. Because remember what the kidney does. It traps waste and converts it into urea and filters the blood, puts the blood back out into the body, filters other things. But basically the kidney is one of the main organs of methylation. It's grabbing nutrients, it's methylating to other nutrients and putting them back into the blood. When it cannot methylate properly, minerals build up in the nephrotic tissue of the kidney and they actually begin to harden and crystallize, and then you have a kidney stone. Most people think that these are like little bones or that they're calcium stones. They're not calcium stones. They're usually mineral stones. One of the best ways to support the kidney is to actually take a really good methylated multivitamin so that you actually have healthy kidney support so you can actually restore healthy methylation.
Okay, so like they've done, I did look up some stuff like there's constant spasms. She just goes to the MD who does nothing but a urine test and then prescribes. She's on her 10th or 11th round of antibiotic in less than a year.
Oh my God.
Because I know, and she's 90.
Gotta fix
so
the gut.
for her doctor, MD means medical deity. I heard that somewhere.
We did on our podcast, we did a leaky gut protocol. Antibiotics wipe out your gut for minimum 2 years. It's like a napalm bomb. It's the worst thing for our gut. That's 11 rounds of that. So that can be repaired. It takes time, but we went over a leaky gut protocol. That will really help.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll find it. It's the most recent one or the one that I've already heard it once and I wrote down some stuff when I listened to you before.
Yeah,
so
the most
I'll
recent
go
one
and
we did.
We just did one podcast. So
okay, then I'll find you. Thank you
you'll
so
see,
much.
You'll see leaky gut in there. It was a few months ago.
Yeah, I got my cap too, so I'm going out.
We're gonna put it in the chat for you. The team's putting it in the chat.
Thank you. All right, you guys.
Of course.
Appreciate you so much.
Appreciate you too. Great energy. So rocking the brand.
Man, I
Hey
feel
man,
like
good to have you back.
I feel like I'm stealing from you. $47. What a deal.
You're just consumed with guilt over there, huh? We can always tell Amelia. I'll tell the team,
I heard you talk the other day on podcast about with the gut biome, and you were talking about probiotics, and you were talking about how they don't make it. And I'm just curious, what probiotics and what do you suggest for, a healthy gut biome?
I actually do a lot of prebiotics. I actually eat a lot of kefir vegetables. So if I was to take you into my refrigerator right now, you'd see that from an Amish farm, I get kimchi, sauerkraut, and they're actually going to grab it. Kimchi, sauerkraut, and I get a lot of kefir vegetables, pickled pickles. And I'm also a big consumer of raw dairy, raw kefir, and foods that have a lot of pre and probiotics in them naturally. Kefir vegetables are some of the best you can put in the human body. So this is a kimchi that I get from a local Amish farm. This is a sauerkraut that I get from a local Amish farm. And for those of you that haven't eaten like kefir vegetables, they're phenomenal. They're really crunchy. They're really crispy. They actually change the whole texture of a meal. So you can eat them with steak. You can eat them with other vegetables. You can put them on salads. They're not as powerful as some people think. I know some people don't like the taste of sauerkraut. Yeah, but there, you can put them back. But that's a great way to get your pre and probiotics. You can also supplement them. What is your suggestion?
Yeah, you guys have a great supplement, and spore-based probiotics are great. They
Spore-based probiotics are the best.
yeah, they have a protective shell on the outside of them, so basically he's able to survive through the hard acidic terrain of the digestive system. Basically, the acid in the stomach, the bile from the gallbladder, and then what happens is once it gets into the biome, it releases itself and it colonizes onto the intestinal wall, and then it starts to actually germinate. So you're going to get a fully intact probiotic. And I love things like Bacillus coagulans, subtilis. They're just very powerful. What I like about them is they help strengthen the microbiome terrain. So they strengthen that good gut army, but they do a couple other things that most probiotics don't do. They've done a study showing that doing a spore-based probiotic for 30 days can actually help heal up 44% of leaky gut, which is powerful because probiotics don't do that. And then the other thing that they do is they nudge out bad pathogens. They make room for the good guys. So they get rid of the bad guys, make room for the good guys. So it's something that I recommend taking at dinner time. You could take one or two at your biggest meal of the day. And it's something that's going to be really helpful for your gut.
Awesome. Also, with the water generator, Echo water generator, too, I always struggle, my brain just loves to go wild. The 4 minutes versus the 9 minutes or 5 minutes versus 10 minutes. I do the 10, but does it really make a difference? Or is it better to do one that versus the other?
I mean, it doesn't make an enormous difference. It slightly increases the concentration of the water by about a third. Like I just hit it 2 times just because if you saw, I just drank it. So I won't need it for 15 or 20 more minutes and I'll try to drink it again. I'm drinking an abnormally higher amount of water over the next 3 days. I love that you do it with the Mountain Valley spring water because then you also get like some of the other micronutrients in there. You can do it with whatever spring water you want. Remember not to put the Baja Gold sea salt in here, though, right? It'll mess with the proton exchange membrane in the bottom of that bottle. But you can just take it, dump it into a glass, put the pinch of
that's what I do.
Electrolytes or salts in there and drink it that way.
And then
I mean,
finally,
that of all the things, and I know everybody on here is probably already a customer and has one, but I mean, that is an absolute game changer. I notice the difference when I travel with that and the times when I forget it and don't travel with it.
Yeah, I've never done it with the 4 minute. I always, bigger is better, Okay. I was just curious about that. And then you mentioned about bathing and the toxins. And have you found a decent like soap or that's not going to be harmful?
There are some mineral soaps that I'm a big fan of. Can the team remind me to just put those mineral soaps onto the into the Ultimate Human website so they can see those? Because I see we got a ton of hands raised, so I'm going to try to really get through some questions. By the way, if you have your hand raised today and we don't get to you, I'm going to put you first in line for tomorrow so we can get through all of those. Question person. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
One question a person, and I'll try to be a little more concise with my answers.
Thanks so much for all you do.
You're very welcome, brother. It's great to see you again. You're on all of these. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, man. Ryan.
Hey, how's it going?
How you doing, Ryan?
Hey, good. How's it going?
Great.
What's up, Ryan?
All right. Back on Guam again, finished a long trip flying through the islands. And one thing I was doing was putting some of the sea salt. I thought, okay, I'll put some of it under my tongue.
Yes.
And let it kind of slowly dissolve, drink some water. Does that sound all right?
Yeah, that's perfectly fine.
Okay. And then I did a contrast therapy in Honolulu when I was there. Did 30 minutes at 150 degrees in the sauna. And then I did the cold plunge. And for the first time, I did the full dunk my head under. At the beginning of the cold plunge, I think they said they had the pool or the plunge at like 40 degrees. So a little bit chilly, but felt good. However, towards the end of it, I just did 5 minutes. probably about the 4-minute mark, I started feeling really, really lightheaded and almost like nauseous in the cold plunge.
40 degrees is too cold and 5 minutes is too long at 40 degrees. So you'll see me constantly say 48 to 50 degrees, 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum. There's no evidence that colder is better. There's no evidence that longer is better. Remember, the objective of cold plunging is to cold shock the body, not cold adapt the body, right? We're not trying to become an Eskimo, right? We actually don't want the body to go to the other way and start to protect us from the cold. We want the body to be shocked every time we get in the cold. So 48 to 50 degrees, even 52 degrees, 3 minutes minimum, 6 minutes maximum. What happened was you were starting to feel the effects of early onset mild hypothermia. And so if you had stayed 2 to 3 minutes at that temperature or stayed a little bit of a warmer temperature, you wouldn't have felt that difference. Remember, once you have a peripheral vasoconstriction, taking the temperature lower doesn't tighten the fist anymore. It doesn't constrict the vessels anymore. They're either constricted or they're not, right? It's not like they have sort of varying levels of constriction. Once it clamps shut, that's as clamped shut as it's going to get. And you keep decreasing the temperature, you're not increasing the amount of that constriction.
Okay, sounds good. I thought, man, that was the first time I put my whole head under, and I was like,
Yeah,
I
the whole
won't do
head
that
is
again.
fine. That's called the mammalian dive reflex. I actually find that it makes it easier to tolerate the cold plunge if you actually go fully under when you first get in.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
Okay, Rajat, thank you for everything. Appreciate it. You're awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate you too. Is it Yamalis? Hi there. Did she freeze on us? Yamalis? Hi. I don't think she knows we called on her. Maybe she does. Hi, Yamalis. You're muted. Okay, now you're not.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
Okay, I think I'm in two devices. There we
Okay.
go. Okay, thank you guys for hosting us.
Of course.
And this is my first water fasting. So excited because I'm actually cooking for the whole family.
You got this.
And I haven't craved anything. So
Yes.
I'm proud of myself. So two-part questions. Right, I'm 48. I am in quest of restructuring lifestyle. And I want to get feedback on what panels of health should I request to get an analysis of where I'm at today.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other part will be, I have a business in 2 time zones, and I want to understand how can I help my body to go to the different time zones and be effective, energized, delivering with my pattern of when should I eat and all of that.
So I'm going to take a stab at that, and then I want you to take a stab at it. So first and foremost, for the female panel, meaning the blood panel, I'll have my team send you the female panel. If you guys can take the panel that we pull, I'll send you the female panel that we pull on females. It tells you what biomarkers to pull. Secondly, for travel, here's my 2 biggest tips for travel. Okay, schedule meetings and travel around sleep and exercise. Don't make the meetings and the travel the important thing. Make the sleep and the exercise the important thing. So by that, I mean, no red eyes, no super late night flights, no butt crack of dawn flights, because when you're taking a butt crack of dawn flight, you're getting up earlier than the butt crack of dawn. You're just throwing your circadian off for that period of time. The other big thing, if you're switching between time zones, is, and I rarely hear people talk about that, is try to preserve your sleeping window in both time zones. In other words, let's say that you're in the East Coast. I'm in Miami. I go to bed at 10 p.m. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning. All right. That means I'm sleeping from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. Now I go to London. I'm 6 hours ahead. Right. If I eat between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. my time, I am going to wreck my circadian clock. We are way more tired to digestion than we are the circadian cycle of the sun. If you just set an alarm for 3 o'clock this morning and you woke up and you ate a 3-egg omelet, had a big glass of orange juice, slice of toast, and tried to go back to bed, there'd be no chance, right? So if you really want to throw your circadian clock off, forget to preserve your feeding window. So when you switch time zones, especially if you do it intermittently, pick the time zone that you're in most frequently, which for me is Miami. If I go to London, this means that I am not going to eat between 6 a.m. and noon, which is the time that I'm normally sleeping. I can start eating at noon in London and be just fine, right? So you can have all the coffee you want, you can have all the water you want, you can have all the fluids that you want, but don't eat solid foods during that time frame. It'll dramatically adjust how you adjust to the time zone. The last thing is get used to doing circadian breath work, which means within 30 minutes of waking every day, do the same type of breath work. Every time you go to sleep, do the same type of breath work, the 6-second inhale, 3-second hold, 6-second exhale. What happens is these become such patternistic in your brain that your brain knows every time I'm doing this breath work, I'm waking up. Every time I'm doing this breath work, I'm actually going to sleep. So you can actually wake yourself up and put yourself to sleep through habitual rituals as much as you can through that circadian clock. If you can't control the clock, you can control the rituals that you engage in around the clock. That's a big reason why I try to make as many of my suggestions that people do portable, right? Breathwork is portable, cold showers is portable, grounding is portable, sunlight is portable. All of these things that we can do that we can always, take with us.
Awesome advice. I love that. Remember that when we travel on a plane, we get massively dehydrated. So let's say it's a 5-hour flight, you're going to lose a liter of water for each hour. So that's 5 liters. I'm not saying drink 5 liters on the plane, but you're going to have to make up that water around that trip. So that's a big one, because so many times we're dehydration, it just depletes our body. And then again, you want to add minerals as you're doing that, like the Baja Golds. Number 2, remember when you're in a plane, you're in this kind of enclosed vessel. And the second they turn on the Wi-Fi, we just get bombarded with EMF. So I'll travel with some mineral rocks or some form of tool to help block that.
Actually, wear EMF blocking clothing.
Yeah, even better. Exactly. Silver. I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can do. Melatonin works really, really well. In general, we are massively depleted in melatonin. This is why it's important. Gary was talking about earlier, to sleep at 68 degrees, ideally, pitch black room, because that helps increase the melatonin production in your body. But when we fly, it really helps with resetting that circadian clock. Remember, it's not about sleep. A lot of people think, oh, melatonin is for sleep. I mean, it helps people sleep, but it's really about resetting the circadian clock. So what I do when I get on a plane, I'll take 3 milligrams of liposomal melatonin right on the plane. And then that night, wherever my destination, assuming it's a time difference, I'll hit it again before I go to sleep. And that's it. On the way back, on the plane, 3 milligrams. Back here in Naples that night, 3 milligrams. It basically shortens that time and the recovery time for the body. So those tools have really helped me over the years.
Super. Thank you. Stephanie.
Hey, how are you guys?
Amazing. How are you?
Hello.
I'm good. I've listened to both the podcasts that you guys had. And quick question and a follow-up. Let me sparkle quick. Okay, so I have in Gene Land, I have yellow, green, yellow, green, yellow. So I have a yellow comp T. And
Okay.
I was convinced that I was good. And then because every time I kept hearing Sage talk about TNG and Sammy, I thought, to be honest with you, I thought hers was probably red. And then I listened to y'all's video a couple days ago, and at the end, it was like, oh, hers is yellow, it sounds like. So we were with you guys before you came out with your supplements. So when we got recommended, it was like L-methionine. It was all the stuff we pieced together, right? And then now we've replaced most of everything with Optimize, the D2K3, all that good stuff. And I'm trying to figure out, how do I know if I need TMG and or SAMe?
So trimethylglycine, you'll know by looking at your homocysteine level in the blood, right? So
mine's low. Okay. Yep.
So you want homocysteine in the single digits, right?
Yep.
So if your homocysteine down in the single digits, you probably already saw for that gene break, because homocysteine becomes methionine. And then the SAMe, I always tell people that SAMe is based on mood and emotion. So if you really feel like you're sad, or you are what we call mood numb, meaning the peaks and valleys of emotion have disappeared. You don't get really, 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 really happy. You don't get really, really, really upset. You just feel kind of right?
Okay.
Stuck in the middle. Very what we call mood apathetic or mood numbness. That is a great indicator that SAMe could be a game changer for you. In the absence of that, I tell people don't worry about the SAMe. SAMe can also make you manic. It's acetylmethionine. And so people that have the mood effects, meaning just that blase mood, like very often people are like, I just don't get it, man. I have a great marriage. I'm not particularly unhappy with my career. I travel a lot. I'm not financially strapped. I just can't get out of first gear and just sort of mood numb. Those are people that respond usually very well to SAMe.
So my husband has a broken MTR gene. His homocysteine was high. I got it down by giving him methylcymalamine, but he probably would benefit from TMG as well.
Yes, and just monitor the homocysteine level. We'll bring it down into the low single digits, which is right where you want it.
All right, one more thing, and I'm not trying to be annoying with this because I followed your advice, and it kind of didn't work out, but I sent you guys a DM in Kajabi because I wanted to explain it. I followed your advice on taking nitric oxide supplements. My husband started getting super moody, super tired.
Taking my advice on taking a nitric oxide supplement?
No, taking him off because I asked the question
taking him off now.
Ago.
Yeah.
I took him off. He started getting these terrible tension headaches, and he's like, "Babe, what have you done with my supplements?" I'm like, "Nothing. I don't." So long story short, I put him back on. Everything went away. Fatigue went away, and I'm like shaking right now because I'm like so confused. So I went to Dave Asprey's Biohacker Conference. I tracked down Dr. Nathan Bryan because he's like, it's his product, to try to figure out what the frick is going on. And he's like, that's really weird. I don't know. And then I told him what you had said about nitric oxide. And he's like, 99% of what he's saying is accurate, except for the part where oxygen and nitric oxide compete. He's like, oxygen is necessary for nitric oxide and nitric oxide is necessary for oxygen. And I'm listening to these podcasts where he's talking about the same things you are. Fluoride bad, mouth microbiome being really necessary, nitric oxide in the body needing to be at a certain level, not too high, not too low.
Right.
For lack of disease. And he literally gave me a cell phone number because randomly his Instagram got hacked. I was trying to reach out to him on IG. Mine got hacked from his account. It's a mess. But he gave me a cell phone number. So let me explain to you what's going on.
So nitric oxide, a mitochondrial nitric oxide is a necessary gas, but it does compete with oxygen. It competes at a binding site called cytochrome C oxidase. So anything that competes with oxygen is going to down-regulate the mitochondrial function. When nitric oxide escapes from the cell, what it does is it goes to the serum of the blood and it hits the arterial wall and causes the arterial wall to dilate. It actually is a vasodilator, very much like carbon dioxide. It's not the primary vasodilator in the human body. It's a secondary vasodilator. When you put people on a nitric oxide supplement, what happens is you cause that vasodilation to happen abnormally, meaning you raise the level of nitric oxide, you do cause a vasodilation. This is why nitric oxide-based supplements are used for erectile dysfunction, right? Because they'll actually cause a vasodilation. This is mainly what your PDE5 inhibitors are. This is what your Cialis or tadalafil, these NO2 supplements will do. They'll cause a vasodilation. So just like anything in the body, if you continue to supplement and you have this vasodilation effect coming from a high level of supplement, the body is going to reduce its own natural production of nitric oxide.
That's what I was wondering.
Then you take the nitric oxide supplement off, and you don't just go back to baseline, you go much lower, right? It's just like being dependent on testosterone, stopping testosterone. You won't return to your previous level. You'll go to an all new level. It's just like also, caffeinated supplement. People drink 3 or 4 or 5 glasses or cups of caffeine a day, and they stop drinking coffee. All of a sudden, they're going to get headaches. Some of them can be violent headaches. They start drinking caffeine again, and the headaches go away. So my suggestion would be that you taper off of the nitric oxide supplements. You don't just drop them off the cliff. So if there's any way to control the dosing, that you slow dose it down. So that he doesn't develop, which sounds like he already has, a tachyphylactic dependency on nitric oxide supplements. The same thing would happen with bodybuilders. I counsel a lot of bodybuilders and athletes. They take high doses of NO2 supplements before they go to the gym. On the days that they actually don't go to the gym and take pre-workout, they get violent headaches. So on Sundays, their day off, where they're not working out, they actually wake up with, and as they get towards noon, they develop a really severe headache. So they take their pre-workout on the days that they're not doing it. That's actually creating a dependency. It's borrowing from your future. So my suggestion would be to, titrate off of the NO2 supplements over a longer period of time.
Because the only other random thing about him is he had tonsil cancer back in 2016, which is a whole thing with the radiation, proton therapy, radiation, all that. He's good now, but my concern is because they zapped the saliva gland, he's not making nitric oxide naturally in his mouth, right? And then what else are they telling me to do? And I watched your interview with Dr. Gandhi.
So that's a horse.
Dr. Gandhi, here's the other thing. What do they want him soaking his teeth in? I think fluoride trays. And I'm like kicking and screaming about this, but he just went to the dentist with a chipped tooth and they said, well, this is your radiation decay. You got to use your fluoride trays. And he's like, what am I supposed to do, Steph? Like, I don't want to lose my teeth.
Remember, the fluoride trays are for remineralizing the enamel, right? You have demineralization, it's kind of like how cavities start. You have remineralization, which is how they go away. So remineralization can also be done with hydroxyapatite. What's hydroxyapatite? Bone. Bone is hydroxyapatite. Calcium combines with phosphorus to form hydroxyapatite, which is what creates our bones, right? So the hydroxyapatite can remineralize into something as dense as bone, right? So it can actually remineralize the enamel the same way that fluoride can remineralize the enamel. One of the things that it's doing is it's actually getting after the bugs that cause the demineralization. It's sort of the absence of the demineralization bacteria that actually allows remineralization to occur. In that, I mean, I have a whole different issue with the fluoride.
I know.
Even a bigger issue with the fluoride than I do with the nitric oxide. But if his doctor has him on nitric oxide supplements because of a deficiency in amylase, which is where our nitric oxide production begins, that's something different. I didn't know about that. I thought he had a naturopathic ability to produce nitric oxide.
He's not on it from his doctor because of that. But what I'm wondering is if it's beneficial for him to be on it, because I know he's not making it. And then I know with the fluoride, it's killing any natural nitric oxide he would be making because it's killing the, and that's
I would still, my suggestion would still be to, and then we can take this conversation offline so I don't use up everybody's time, but my recommendation would still be to titrate off of the NO2 supplements over a prolonged period of time. There's other places in the body that nitric oxide is produced besides the amylase and saliva. It's produced by, it's produced by the cellular respiration produces nitric oxide. Mitochondrial nitric oxide is a natural byproduct of Krebs cycling and electron transport chain and something called transsulfuration. So, but we can take this conversation offline, but my recommendation is still based on what you're telling me, and I'm not a physician, would be to titrate very slowly on a prolonged period of time off the NO2 supplements.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks for your time.
All right, of course. Okay. All right, so we're gonna get to another question or two. I promise that tomorrow, everybody that has their hand raised, we have so many hands raised. I'm definitely gonna make sure that you guys are prioritized for tomorrow. I apologize for that. We have so many hands raised, and I wish that I could actually read what you're trying to show me. Wish we could get to more of them. But I promise if you have your hand raised, we'll be called on first thing in the morning. Yeah. So let's get to this last question for sure.
Okay. So can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine, man.
Perfect. All right. Thanks. So I'm a family medicine doctor here in Vegas, and biochemistry is my undergraduate study. So I appreciate all you do and the way you explain things. And I try to incorporate this with my other patients. I have a Seika machines for bioimpedance, so that I love the comment about the visceral fat and helping people lose that. So, but I have a question about this alkalizing the coffee issue. So if people really don't have problems with GERD reflex, is that helpful, or is that just the inflammation lower down in the gut?
Sorry.
So if somebody doesn't really have an acid reflux problem or something, how important is it to decrease the acid in their say coffee or whatever?
It's great question. Super important. I mean, there's a lot of upside to coffee, but the one huge downside is the acid. It's 100 times more acidic on average than a cup of water. So it's not just about acid reflux, it's what it does to the gut, because you're either going to kick the acid before it touches your lips, like putting the powder in the coffee, or your body's going to find those minerals inside when you drink the coffee to neutralize the acid.
To buffer it.
It's happening one way or the other. So we don't want to deplete our body's own resources. The people that get acid reflux and bloating and indigestion and other sorts of gut irritations and downstream issues, it's like gasoline on the fire for them. So they absolutely need it. But everybody's got to use this product. everybody because coffee is so acidic. So now when you add that into the coffee, you're going to get the upside, but minus the downside. So it's neutralizing that one major thing that causes so much inflammation in our gut, leaky gut, and downstream in the body.
Okay, thank you. I just want to be able to better explain that to people if I recommend stuff.
Really awesome, man. And thank you for the kind words too. And keep up.
And
I'll be
thank
on
you
Vegas this
for all your
week. I'm
time. I
coming
mean,
out for the fights.
Oh, cool.
I found out I'm MTHFR deficient through your studies at a conference in where was I? I think in Florida somewhere.
Oh, great. So methylfolate and the B complexes for sure.
Right. Right. So
Great connecting with you, doctor.
Nice to see you, Doc.
Oh, you too. Thanks.
Guys, I love this so much. I could literally like sit here all day. And if my team wasn't here, I probably would. But first of all, I want to thank you for your time and giving very graciously. I do not pay him to be here. He's here out of just his pure desire to help me, help you.
Help people.
And he's with me on the whole messaging. And like I say, you know, my messaging is for the masses. And so these challenges are for the masses. You could really help me by just inviting more people to participate in these, whether they're on these calls or not. Just having your loved ones participate in 10,000 step challenges, in breathwork challenges, in sleep challenges, in fasting challenges. These are the way that we go from being basic to being optimal. And, you know, every month I'm trying to come up with new ways for us to challenge ourselves where we emerge stronger. And building a community with you guys is the greatest blessing in life. And hearing some of your stories come back to me that this message is not only resonating, but it's causing you to make a transformative change in your life. And like listening to this lady that, you know, passed out before she went on stage, and she's now getting ready to take the stage on Thursday. Like I never get tired of those stories. So I actually want to thank you guys for giving me your trust and confidence, and let you know that I am constantly working to refine the message. I have an endless amount of energy for this. Please stay strong. You only have 5 more hours until you're going to bed. So just make it to bedtime tonight. Once you close this first 24 hours, the next 24 hours gets easier, and the next 24 hours gets even easier. The amount of benefits you're going to do your body before Thursday of this week, before going to bed on Thursday of this week, is just mind numbing. You have anything else you wanted to add?
It's just such a blessing to be here with you
Yeah.
and everybody and the team and you guys. Most importantly, this is why we do this. You know, I've never met a more passionate person about health and knowledge and want helping people. And remember, it's like you guys are here. You're warriors. You're like that 1%, but it's what you do with that. Remember, it's not about knowledge. That's potential power. Action is power. So take the steps. Don't get overwhelmed. One day at a time. And bring this to your family, right? Because we want to be all healthy together. So I love and appreciate you all. And let's keep on rocking and rolling.
I love and appreciate you guys too. I'll see you at 3 o'clock tomorrow. All right.
Take care, everybody.
Stay strong, guys. Just make it to bed tonight.
You got this.
I love you guys.
This.
Record.